Hey friends, so excited that you're joining us today. In this episode, we're talking about how you can discover your very own power to pivot in any situation so that you can pivot from stuck to success. All right, HP in his house. I think that's going to be my opening every time. I'm liking it.
I think mine's going to be holla holla.
I think you can tell how old we are.
Holla holla.
Yeah.
Lego.
So I want to share with people today how they can cultivate their own power to pivot in any situation at any time where you find yourself feeling stuck, that you actually have the power to pivot and take it can seem like the smallest, tiniest little move, but in the opposite direction, and how that can compound and create incredible change and results in your life.
That's it. Like that Friends episode when they're on the staircase and they're carrying a big, heavy sofa.
Pivot.
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 That's it.
Yeah.
Difficult situation. Got to pivot.
Yeah. So how does this resonate with you? We've talked about this so many times before. We almost feel like the masters of the pivot and being like, it was like one word, one thing that really just changed our lives so much. And we didn't realize it. I don't know if you realized it, but over the past few years, actually, that's been a key in our duplication in helping other people create change in their life, is that when we learn how to focus on that one opposite move, that we start teaching other people how to focus on what's the opposite move to get you what you want, to get you from stuck. Because you're not really stuck. You're not a tree. Come on. You can move, right?
Right.
And then the more that we've kind of taken a little assessment of the things that we did in our life, because you want to do that. You want to look at your life, look at what you should keep repeating, right? Like, what is benefiting me? What has changed my life? This has been one of those things that we got really aware of. And I think we've really held on to the word pivot, because what pivot means is a central point on which a mechanism turns, that central point is fixed. So when I heard the meaning of the word pivot, I think of a human being. Like, we're fixed, right? Like, I am me. I am Samantha Janae Prestenbach. And that's never going to change. And that's okay, right? But even though there's certain things about me that will never change, I am capable of change. So I'm fixed, but I can move and I can shift and I can mold myself.
Change direction.
Yeah. Into what I want to become.
Change habits. Yeah.
Where did this first show up for you? Where did you first feel stuck in our lives and in our journey? And when did you first realize that you wanted to change it?
Are we going to the story again? We're going back to day one. I mean, in so many areas. But I think just on an elementary level, before we get into like some of the pivots to certain, like what we spoke about recently, where we get into individual topics of it that may walk some people through some things. I think it's just on an elementary level. So people, if they're not picking up what we're laying down with this word pivot, that's like every day you get a choice to pivot or stay down the path that you don't want. So, circumstances aren't always going to be rainbows and unicorns, is what I'm saying. Like the other day we did we call it a mastermind group. We had a couple hundred people on, and pulled up my computer. People are ready to go, right? This has been broadcasted. You got 300 plus people on this, a couple hundred. I don't know how many people it was. Yeah. And I had no volume coming out of my computer, but I had my PowerPoint on there. So I'm hosting this particular thing, and literally I had to pivot. So I try to airdrop in my PowerPoint to your computer. That didn't work. So I emailed it. Meanwhile, we have another one of our partners who steps up, and she does what she does, and she's buying time, and she's getting everyone, engaging and whatnot. Meanwhile, we're back trying to hustle. We're pivoting, right, to a new computer, literally pulling up PowerPoint, getting it to work. And yeah, in that moment, you're flustered, but we could have just been like, oh, well, can't do it today. Oh, sorry, my computer's bad. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, 10 years ago, probably would have did that.
And or almost, just said, well, we have to forget about the PowerPoint.
Or forget about the PowerPoint.
Quickly navigating and be like, okay, no, we got two computers here. Email it. We tried to airdrop even, right? And for some reason that wasn't working. And
so that's a case in point though, and then just recently we were on stage in front of, I don't know, close to 3,000 people. I learned from this mistake. It won't happen again ever because I felt it in my soul, the anxiety of it. But you're on stage in front of 3,000 people. You have your whole presentation laid out, and then you go to hit your next PowerPoint slide that you're setting up, and you push the button, and it's not there. And meanwhile, you just spent 60 seconds setting up that next slide. It's not there, and you're like, oh. And it's like, all right, this is live time, 3,000 plus people, whatever it was. I got to pivot. So we left that part out. That was like 6 slides in between each slide. And literally,
which would have been so cool too, because it would have had
it was engaging,
the crowd
it was
engaging
interactive.
with
I was
us,
excited about it.
I know.
I was worked up about it, but I froze for it.
It
Felt
is
like I
what
froze,
it is.
But
you
had to
pivot. Yeah.
Right there, live time. I had to pivot, which was cool because the name of our presentation was The Power to Pivot, but it wasn't planned.
We were given but that's a great point. Life is always going to present you.
I think that was God's way of sneaking that in. Saying,
I think so. I really think so, because life will always show up like that.
Always. We wait for the unicorns and the rainbows, like I said, everything to align perfectly. No. Life. The more I look at it, it's like, and now that we've structured this speech or this talk around the power of pivot, because it seems like every day we're like pivot. And just comes in, and you realize throughout your day how often you're either pivoting or you're just like complaining. You got a choice, right? You're either pivoting or you're complaining about why I could have stood on stage and be like, well, all my slides are horrible. Like, this isn't going to work out. Or no, that wouldn't have worked out well. Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the basis of pivot.
I like what the direction you're going in too, with now we have this communication, a trigger word, a positive trigger word between each other, 1 word, 5 letters, pivot. And we have, most importantly, first, we have it for ourselves, because to be able to pivot in real life means taking personal responsibility to change the course, direction, and results of your life at any given moment. So first, you have to make the commitment to change your verbiage to yourself. And to have the awareness to know when you're in a situation, because some people don't even realize they're stuck. Sometimes I don't even realize that I'm saying yes to the same damn thing over and over that is keeping me stuck. So first you have to have the mental awareness that you're not in alignment. You're not in congruency with what you want for your life.
Well, people say that they're in a rut.
Yeah.
I'm in a rut.
Who keeps you there?
I'm in a rut.
Who keeps you in your rut?
And then I've heard it said, the only difference between a rut and a grave is the depth of the hole, because you'll constantly stay in this rut, so-called rut, instead of pivoting out of the rut,
right?
Which takes energy, right? It takes a lot of energy, mental and physical sometimes.
Well, that's the key thing about a pivot. The pivot is the physical action. It's the energy generated from your mind choosing that it wants to change course and direction and have different results, and then funneling that energy through your body. But what I was saying was talking about, the accountability aspect that you mentioned with have a pivot partner. Teach someone in your life that you can trust that's not going to use it as mental warfare. First of all, we don't need people in our lives that use things against us. We want people that use it for us.
Yeah, you don't weaponize it.
Yeah.
It's like the below the line thing. I hear people, the basis of it is, below the line. We won't get into that, but people start weaponizing it or using it as a crutch. And it's like, oh, no.
So educate someone, send someone this podcast and educate them on what the power to pivot is and means. And then you can have a pivot partner in your life that is willing to help you and also, help themselves too. And it's that one word of like, because everyone has their days. Like I have a day when I have my day, ooh, it's not pretty in this house. I'm walking around and being a Enneagram 1, that looks like a bad day looks like for me, a lot of criticism. Self-criticism, of course, is the worst, but criticizing just everything and anything I can that is not right. Like what's not right.
Yeah.
Or complaining. Criticism or complaining is the key ways when I'm having a bad day. And there's something I was complaining about recently, and you're like, you just look and go, better pivot.
Yeah.
And I can't get mad at that. I'm like, you know what? Because I've chosen to take that responsibility for myself. And the delivery is short, sweet, and simple. So for couples, I highly encourage that you both take up the pivot terminology in your relationships. I think it will really help, but you have to be willing to accept that and not combat back and forth. I'm going to go back to that point about channeling that energy through what you do. So kinetic energy is the energy an object possesses just through movement.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have the energy if it's not moving. And to talk about Newton's law of motion, a body at rest tends to stay at rest, while a body in motion tends to stay in motion unless a force is acted upon it. Mm-hmm. So in these situations, both with kinetic energy and Newton's law of motion, we are the body, but we're also the force.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sitting here right now in chairs, and the only thing that's moving on us is our heads or our hands or whatever, but that's because we're powering it. Now, as soon as we want to stand up, we channel that mental energy through the rest of our body and we're up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think people don't realize that your superpower is the ability to channel your mental energy into physical energy, AKA the work that you can do with your hands. That's the pivot.
And that's the power of the pivot.
That's the power behind the
That's
pivot.
taking the power back.
Yes. It is actually deciding to do the work,
Mm-hmm.
all of the work, any of it. We're going to feel tired and disappointed through not having done it, but when you pivot and you get to work, you may be tired, but you're not going to, have those same regrets.
Well, it's interesting you say tired, because I was coming back from the gym this morning here. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm older now.
So old.
That they had me working today at the gym, and I was like, God, man, I am so tired now. Like I need a nap. And I'm like, no, we have like a couple of hours of podcast we're doing. We're doing an interview later today. And I was just thinking, I was like, I'm tired because my mind is not in pursuit. Like I need to be excited. Like I need to shift.
Yes.
So like I took that moment, and I was coming down Pima, and I was behind a concrete truck. I can remember, because seriously. And in that moment I said, no. You don't need coffee necessarily. Yeah, I'm drinking coffee right now. I shifted my energy in that moment by getting excited about coming to do, to get to work. I had a list of things I had to do. I got two calls done before this podcast. And then I got one email out and a couple of texts out. So then I was in action. To your point, I was in action.
Mm-hmm.
I was in pursuit of getting things accomplished, and I felt my energy level come up. Now, sometimes it don't come up to where you want it, but it was coming up. And I think oftentimes we feel tired because we're not, my point of that is oftentimes we feel tired because we're just not in pursuit of anything.
Yeah. We're spending more time thinking about doing things than actually
doing it and going through the motion. So that was a moment
mm-hmm.
where I pivoted.
That's exhausting.
My mental energy. And then it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Worked. I got excited. Started bopping my head, put on a little music. Actually put on a podcast, sorry. But it was good.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's the power struggle between the mind and body. The thing that we want is congruency, when the things that you think aligns with the things that you do. Mm-hmm. But where people, when they're feeling stuck, are experiencing, we've mentioned this before, cognitive dissonance, which is when what you think isn't aligning with what you do.
With what you do. And we see that, we did that, and we see that way too often. Way too often. It's like everyone has a threshold of what they're willing to tolerate before they'll get into action.
Yep.
And everyone's is different. Like, it's amazing the threshold some people have.
Yeah.
Like of what they're tolerating in their lives, in their relationships, in their health, in their wealth, in their whatever it may be.
I feel like it's because they've spent so much of their life just feeling so disempowered, and nobody has told them, maybe, or at least not the people that they're willing to listen to. So that's sad first, like who we should have listened to that we didn't. But they're so disempowered that they're spending their lives stuck.
Well, that probably goes into the conformity, pivoting to courage.
Yeah.
You think about it. That was one of the ones we talked about. There was a psychiatrist named Rollo May back in the 50s. And it said that the opposite of courage in today's society is not cowardice, but it's conformity. And does that ring true today? Especially the last 2 years. I'm not even going to get into the politics of it and the whatever, because I could go for 3 hours on that and just get warmed up. But you see how quickly people start to conform, and how they're conforming in all areas of their lives because they're so scared and afraid to be ostracized, to stick out, to stand out, to be shunned, to be silenced, to be judged. Yet they conform to someone or something in mind and action doesn't align with their morals, values necessarily, but they still do it out of conformity and fear.
Yeah.
But people's been doing it their whole lives. We did it. We conformed somewhat before we broke loose, just in how we acted. Remember, we got to get a new shiny car because when we go to people's houses, we had the piece of junk that pulled up and all these. I remember pulling up at someone's house and I was like,
identity, conforming to identity.
Yeah, so I start conforming. I get in debt because I'm trying to keep up. So we could go unravel that for days. But conformity, to Rollo May's, the psychiatrist's quote, it's holding people back so much. And the problem is it isn't that you conform. It's not conforming and following people or others. It's that you conform to the wrong people.
Yep.
You conform to the 95% of those people who aren't doing shit, but judging and criticizing. You're conforming to the 95% of the people who just go with the flow and think external circumstances dictate their lives and their results.
Yep.
That's what the problem is. You conform to them. And the minute that, speaking to you from our perspective, is the minute we started conforming to, if you want to say, or pivoting to courage and saying, hey, we're going to go against that 95% because I don't want anything that those people have. I don't want their bank account. I don't want their health. I don't want their relationships. I don't need them. They can talk about me all the way to the top of the 1%. And we started saying, what does a 1%er do? What does a 5%er do? How do they act? How does their relationships look? What do they do? What are their daily routines? And we started conforming, if you want to say, to a 5% or a 1%. And I'd say it paid off. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. It's not that you don't want to actually mimic something while learning to be your unique self and go after your unique
But
goals.
It takes courage.
But it takes courage
to be the 5 out of 100.
Choosing to conform to something different.
To be that the 5 out of 100 or the 1 out of 100. That takes courage.
Well, yeah, because it takes actually, confronting your fear of failure. And so courageous, the meaning of it is the ability to do something while afraid. So it takes confronting your fears, your concepts, your naysayers. Like, you have to be courageous doesn't mean that it's not the absence of fear. No, you're afraid, but you're doing it anyway. You're doing the things anyway. You're going to confront that head on. It's confrontation. Confrontation is actually one of the healthiest things that we could have in our lives. Healthy confrontation creates change. I think people think of confrontation as like always this dysfunctional thing. And sure, that exists, right? But in order to create change, in order to pivot, to take their power to pivot back, they're going to have to confront some things, people, fears, concepts, all the things. And that's powerful because, yeah, man, so many people are just out there conforming to what they consider normal, right?
I like to say the only fish that go with the flow are the dead ones. And there's 95 out of 100 people just going with the flow. Mm-hmm. And that's when I say dead ones, that's their dreams are dead. They never went after nothing. Why are you scared of what those people are going to say about you?
Yep.
Why are you scared that you're not going to get invited to that party?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be at that party.
Yep.
I want to be farthest away from that party.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how do I get in that 5% party where the people are like encouraging you to rise up?
100%.
Or encouraging you to be better. And maybe not through their words, but through their actions. So we have a group of friends that it's like their actions level. They're not necessarily encouraging us through their words. Come on, Harold, Sam, y'all could do. No, we watch them through their actions and it encourages us to level up. You need to surround yourself with those people.
Yeah. They outdo us all the time. These people have leveled up in so many ways in their lives that just sheerly by like watching them, we learn. Mm-hmm. And that's, I don't want to even get into the people that are like, oh, he or she makes me feel like I'm a failure. First of all, if just by watching someone succeed and do life at a massive level is making you feel like a failure, that ain't on them. That's on you. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, that's you need to go inside and check yourself before you wreck yourself. Why are you making yourself feel inadequate by watching someone win and succeed at life? That's really the question, right? So yeah, pivoting and putting yourself around people that are doing life, at a high level and that are just, they got this one life. They're trying to live it to the fullest and see what is the true potential God put in each and every one of us. How does he want us to live that out? Mm-hmm. That's huge. That's a key right there. Big key. So I feel like for me, I had to, in order to start taking my power to pivot back, I had to confront what I was turning away from. Like I could see a direction I wanted to go in, but I kind of always like constantly felt like it was like I was a dog on a leash, kind of like, I see it. I see what's out there, the direction I want to go, but I felt like I was always like being pulled back. So for me to be able to really fully step into that power of channeling, what I saw in my head into my hands and the work that I was finally admitting I was willing to do, I had to look back first and say, I'm turning away from this blank, and like actually get real with it. So we've talked about, it really hurt at first to admit this, but I had to pivot away from feeling like a loser and a failure. Like I held that like a badge of honor. Like I was like this broken person, and it stemmed from just quitting a lot of things because I felt inadequate, or having lost people in my life. I quit college, wrecked my first 3 cars, lost my brother in a car wreck shortly after. I didn't make it on the cheerleading squad in high school, therefore felt like a failure. There's all these things. And then ultimately, I realized with like 3 things that came at me, because life is always going to keep coming at you, was when I was just 21 years old or so. And the doctor, my OB, looks at me and says, hey, you're probably not going to have babies. We need to induce menopause. I had all kinds of issues, fertility issues or whatever. And they had already done several surgeries and nothing, my pain wasn't getting better. And she's like, you're not going to have babies. And we're newly engaged. And someone's telling me I'm not going to be able to have a family. And then we get married. And what I thought was going to be happily ever after didn't turn out that way exactly. And we both said we wanted a divorce. And then my mom died. And I wanted to crumble. I really, really thought, I was like, dang, I was dealt a bad hand. But I realized I didn't want things to be that way. And I just decided right at the very moment where I just felt like I wanted to give up on life, all the things, that I could fight back. And it was in those moments that instead of being punched and kicked by life and just like taking it and cowering in corner, I decided to swing back. And you know what? Here we are, 17 years married, 4 kids. I can't change that my mom's gone, but what I can change is the impact and the time that I spend in the personal relationships that I have and the lessons I've learned from that. And I've learned that life is not good or bad. It just is. And it's what you make it. And if you want to like it more, you have to contribute to it more. So you shared we have 5 key power to pivots, 5 steps to help people get into action now and start channeling their mental energy into physical energy to change their life, to change their course, to give them the power to pivot from stuck to success. You shared one of them was conformity pivots to
courage.
Right?
Yep.
So that's number 1. And then the next one is really important too. Confusion pivots to clear.
Yeah. Confusion pivots to clear. That's actually probably would be number 1 because you got to know where you're going. Right?
Yeah.
You need clarity so you can become excited about why you're getting out of bed. Oftentimes I remember we would struggle to get out of bed, and it was because we had no destination. And it's interesting how many of you, because we were one of them too, that would get out of bed and just kind of aimlessly go through with no excitement, no joy, and wondering why we were getting what we were getting or not going where we wanted to go. Because we didn't know.
Yeah. We were just set no mark.
Well, you just kind of, like at that time, I talk about how we were just, you ever feel that way? Like you're just kind of working out. You're just kind of doing your nutrition because you have no clear, definitive picture of what it is you want to create from your workouts, what results you want. You're very vague. You're just doing it. Your nutrition's the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And we did this for a long time. But once you get clear on what you want to create, like just recently for me, I got really clear. I said, okay, we need to level up. I got really clear on what I want to create in my health. So then my nutrition and my workouts align with that. And now I'm not kind of doing my workouts. I have a specific routine that I do, that I cycle through to get that result. And the nutrition is aligned with that also.
Yep.
So if you find yourself just kind of doing your workouts, kind of doing your nutrition, you need to check yourself and get clear
what do you really
what
want?
exactly you want from that. And the same thing goes with your relationships. You're just kind of doing marriage. You're just kind of dating somebody. You need to get clear on what you want as a result of that, right?
Yeah.
Or just kind of doing this job, or just kind of doing that entrepreneurial, whatever, that business that you're trying to grow.
Yep.
That's because you have no
target.
You have no target. So you're just kind of doing it because you only kind of know.
Yeah. Yep.
You have no clarity.
The standards you set is the standards you meet, and you've got 0 standards. Oof.
Yeah.
I don't want to, we've lived that life, but I want to encourage other people to set a new standard, and it doesn't have to be through the roof. If you feel like you need to gather some small wins first, yeah, start there, but make it like a ladder. Like in each thing that you as you pivot, you continue to pivot away from, making the same choices over and over again ad nauseum. Yeah. Like you're climbing a ladder to the next pivot over and over and over.
See, that's where people get stuck though, is that, I want to stay on this topic though for a second to complete it, but they get into that maintenance mode, and maintenance isn't a goal. That's you trying to figure it out. That's because you don't know where you're going or what you're doing. So first, use that as a sign, but going through the motions is better than not going through the motions for a small amount of time. I'll agree to that. I'll agree with that, but eventually you have to get clear.
You gotta be real with yourself. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you'll be amazed as how you'll jump out of bed. Like I remember when we were growing this 7 years ago, all of a sudden it shifted because we pivoted, got really clear what we wanted to create. That's when I wrote My Magnificent Day, got very clear from waking up in the morning all the way through my day on exactly what it looked like from an I am perspective and as if it existed in that moment. And I'll tell you what, all of a sudden, your brain goes to work on that. That's not hocus pocus. See that 95%ers? They think that's hocus pocus, and they skip the step of getting clear on what they want to create. They skip the step on writing some form of my magnificent day and what that looks like because they think it's hocus pocus. Yet if you read any of the top 1% successful people in the world, they all have definitive, clear clarity on what they want to create and where they're going. And they all do it. It ain't hocus pocus.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Actually, I read a study on that recently where they studied people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and, who's the Facebook guy? Zuckerberg, yeah. But it was like the key things, they have a lot of things in common. But one of the key things was actually clarity of purpose, like clarity of contribution to the world. Mm-hmm. And to your point is people are shrugging all these little things, so-called little things, they're actually monumental, off as if, like, how could something so small create something so big? It's called the compound effect, people. Mm-hmm. It's called adding up. There is no one big shot out there. Newsflash. Yeah. You talk about even like, the one hit wonder type of thing with the bands or whatever. Guess what? Before that, they were practicing in their garages and learning how to play music. There is no one hit wonder. No. So conformity pivots to courage, confusion pivots to clarity. Mm-hmm. Number 2, well, 3. No, we said 2 points. These are sort of out of order, but hey, this is the chilling in our living room version of power to pivot. So the next one would be perfection pivots to practice. Perfectionism is one of the things that keeps so many people from taking the first pivot, the first step, the first action, because you're stuck in your head here. Like I used to do it all the time. I used to tell myself, oh, I'm not perfect, or it's not perfect. And in reality, that's so harmful because first it's a cop-out, it's a scapegoat, it's self-deprecating, and it's really just comparison. So really, this whole idea of perfection is a human theory of the way they think things should be. That's it. Because of something that you've come up with in your head, or someone you've compared yourself to that you think is perfect, but actually is just a human being themselves. And you don't even know the inner workings of their life.
Nah, they usually show the best stuff.
Yeah. Well, and you take take someone,
fake stuff.
One of the easiest examples of that is someone who is incredibly fit, and you see their picture online and they got the abs and the shredded arms, or they're lifting super heavy weight, and someone just starting out on their fitness journey, talk about saying that someone makes you feel a certain way. Well, this is exactly that. You look at them and you think, oh my gosh, they're so perfect. Clearly they're so perfect in their nutrition. And the thought is that they never eat junk, or they never eat chocolate, or they never whatever. You don't even know the inner workings of that person's life. And I guarantee you that they're eating something that you don't know that they're eating and enjoying it. The only difference is that they're not perfect, and that's not even perfect. So you're saying, let's say someone doesn't eat any sugar. Why is that perfect? Who said that was perfect? Did God come down from heaven and say, therefore I shall now say, any human who doesn't eat sugar is perfect? It's just a human theory. So we're comparing ourselves to something that's not even true first. Mm-hmm. So what we have to do is really spend less time thinking about how things should be, or how we think things should be, and just get into practice. Mm-hmm. Just getting to the trusting, kind of what we were just talking about, that the small daily actions add up. And there's actually a theory on this and a whole book written on it. It's a 10,000 hour rule. Mm-hmm. And that 10,000 hour rule states that if you spend 10,000 hours working on anything that you want to accomplish, any one thing, that you can become an expert at it within about that amount of time. And that could take, however much time you put in daily, depends. It could be 2 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at us, for instance, and we're coming up on 10 years, or we are at 10 years of this business.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't say that we're 10,000 hours in, because we kind of wasted our first couple of years with not being able to pivot quick enough.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting close, and, we've accomplished our goals, the first goals that we set out, and then some, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we really should be looking at these individuals that we're thinking are so dang perfect and really asking ourselves, how much practice have they gotten? They've just gotten more practice than me. So I need
to got more hours in.
Yeah, get the practice, get the dang practice in. Wake up, stop. And this kind of your marry the process, right? Divorce the results.
Yeah.
Stop thinking about so much what you want to be now and start trusting the process and just getting the dang practice in.
100%.
So uncontrollable pivots to controllable.
Well, that goes in. Is that that's not the last one?
Actually, no, it's not. But that kind of rolls into how we broke that down for ourselves, was focusing on daily activity goals.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty, this one's pretty easy. It's pretty streamlined. I mean, it takes discipline to get it started, but it's with anything you want to improve upon, whether it's your physical health, nutrition, your business, maybe it's a hobby, but it piggybacks off of what you said with the 10,000 hours. You list out those activity goals that you need to check off, and they don't have to be, it's not these big things that you have to do. It's these small little things that, when done consistently daily, to your point earlier, it compounds into the results. But oftentimes we get married to the results, like especially with, I keep bringing up fitness, because how many times you eat so good, you eat so clean for 3 days, and you're on the scale and it's not doing, because you're addicted to a result. You're addicted to an expectation of that desired outcome. And when it doesn't come quick enough, we throw in the towel and we quit. And that's why so many people, because we owned a gym for 10 years, we saw so many people, like a revolving door, just throw the towel in. And we still get people who come back and to what we do now with nutrition. And it's like a cyclical thing. They throw the towel in, they come back. They throw the towel in, they come back. And if they just realize what you said, they're not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't perfect. Those people that you see as being successful,
yep,
they just have daily activity goals that they check off. And if they have, say, 20 a week, I'm just making up a number. It's not that they probably don't get all 20. Some weeks they may, but they probably check off a good 18 of them.
Yep.
And they know the results will show up over time.
And they're not going home and crying because they're like, only got 18 hours this week.
No. But they know.
I'm such a failure.
But that's a guarantee. If you have your daily activity goals lined up with whatever it is, you want to build a business, you want to build a body, you want to, whatever it is, grow a hobby, learn a new language, whatever, over time, I guarantee you the results will show up. I don't know how long, I don't know when, but the results will show up every single time.
Yep.
Because you're focusing on what you can control versus what you can't control.
Right.
Because when you focus on what you can't control, oh my God, frustration, anxiety, you're like a hamster on a wheel.
Yep.
People are pulling you every which way. And then your emotions kick in.
Mm-hmm.
You can't control any of that. And I'll tell you what, it's freeing whenever you can breathe and you start just letting life be life.
Let it go. Yeah.
Let life be life.
Yeah.
And you focus on what you can focus on.
Yeah. Oh, and I forget to mention the 10,000 hour rule is deliberate practice. So that's, to your point, also it's honing the skill. You mentioned going through a process of sometimes just checking a couple of boxes, but then you have to have the reality check. If you find yourself in a place and you're like, oh yeah, I'm investing time. Well, but is it deliberate? Are you really putting the energy behind it? Yeah. Because thou shalt not fool thyself,
Mm-hmm.
Last but not least is stationary pivots to motion.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the obvious. And this is what we're getting to, is channeling the mindset into the hands.
Yeah.
Motion became my medicine a very long time ago. And it was the thing that helped me pivot from generational dysfunction of anxiety, depression, and just, poverty and all the things that my family before has been labeled. And motion, it started with exercise, but ultimately I realized
exercise is good
and is my superpower. Not exercise specifically, but motion, action, taking action, taking the next step away from all the feelings that you don't want to feel and realizing that you are responsible. I am responsible for creating the feelings and the results I want to feel. And the body's wired this way. The body has a special hormone chemical cocktail with you, whether you want to realize it, that motion and movement creates inspiration. That is, inspiration is literally life and creation in motion. That's it. So
and you can create that.
You can create that.
Stop waiting on other people.
Yeah. And this is the ripple effect. It's like, picture with me a stone. You're going to skip it across the water, right? Or you even just throw a rock into the water. There's a ripple effect from that one motion, from deciding that you're both the body and the force, that you generate your own kinetic energy and you create the results in your life. Pick up the freaking rock and throw it and keep doing it every single day, because that is your power to pivot, right?
Amen. That's some good stuff.
You brought it. You brought the heat.
All right.
All right, friends, until next time, we're the Freedom Parents, and you deserve to live the life that you desire.